right, I think we'll go ahead and get started now. Just go ahead and get into it right now. It is being recorded, so that's perfect. I'm gonna share my screen so I can show my presentation that I have here, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So obviously this is from the testing center. Title of testing, what to expect from the testing center for the spring, just because it feels like with COVID, as we all know, everything has been changing, and even within us, it seems like it changes from one week to the next within the testing center. So try to do the best that we can, obviously, with that, just so we can get through everything and help the students in any way that we can. So talk about some of the different things as we go forward. So go ahead and jump into it. So right now, some of the stuff I just want to go through. I want to talk about our spring 2021 hours, COVID-19 updates to policies and procedures, some stuff with RegisterBlast, with Proctorio, and also with Blackboard. And then at the end, we'll go into a couple of other things as well that I didn't quite have on here, but I think they're going to be valuable for everybody as well. So the first thing, the hours, excuse me, right here, we are going to expand our hours back, and you'll see why here in a minute. Monday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., Tuesday, the same. Wednesday and Thursday will actually just be 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and then Friday we'll be back to 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., Saturday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. The reason we're doing that is based off of the last year's worth of data from RegisterBlast, the system that we use to schedule appointments. Wednesdays and Thursdays, there are two slowest days, Wednesday for sure. And so obviously right now it's just going to be 8 to 5, but if we still have the demand or we need to expand those hours a little bit, we can change those some to do that. Surprisingly enough, Friday evenings are pretty busy, but everybody always thinks that Tuesday is going to be our slowest day. Tuesday is actually our busiest day, Tuesday and then Saturday. So that's why we have those, like it says down there too, hours, they are subject to change. We'll give any advance notice to faculty and students, obviously, before we actually implement the changes. So that's what we're looking at right now. We're running an 8 to 5 for the rest of this week, and then we will be at the 8 to 8, the expanded hours as of next week. So there are the spring hours. Then some updates just to the practices and things. Some of this is just carryover from last semester, but it's still on here. Appointments are going to be required. They will have to schedule those through RegisterBlast, unless it's a Pearson VUE exam. For instance, like if you have a student that's doing a CompTIA exam through that, they'll have a voucher to register through the Pearson VUE system. That's different than these, but everything else will be through RegisterBlast. This semester, this is a change. We are going to allow same-day appointments. They're going to have to be scheduled. There's going to be about an hour buffer in when a student can schedule those exams. So it's not going to quite be a walk-in, but at least this way it'll give students the opportunity to take a test that day if they feel that they're ready for that. I know that was one of our big concerns last semester. We just feel like this is the best way to serve students in that way, is that we can give them the opportunity to come in same day, even if it's not, like I said, right at that time, they can set that appointment and still do it that day. So then obviously with that as part of the check-in procedures, and we were doing this to end the semester last semester, but I don't know if it was very widely known. We are taking the temperature of all candidates just to ensure that nobody has a temperature that's too high or too low. If they do, then we would ask them not to take their exam and they would have to reschedule that. If they're taking a CEI exam, we then also tell them to talk to the instructor, just let them know why they couldn't take it. And most instructors have been very, very helpful with the students and very helpful with us to just get them rescheduled, allow them an extra day, things like that if needed. So we only allow one candidate in the check-in area at a time with the proctor that's there at that check-in station. This just helps make it so there's not a lot. That's a very tiny space, as a lot of you know. that we have. And so limiting it to 1 to 2 people in there at most, including the proctor, is where we think we're going to be able to do that quite a bit. So physical distancing, we've decreased the amount of seats, obviously, that we can normally have in the testing center, but we still are able to maintain at least 6 feet of distance, which gives us 23 computer stations to be able to use. We also do still have 5 or 6 paper-based stations as well. So we still do have those. Cleaning, obviously still doing a lot of this, the increased cleaning in the stations between everything. We're disinfecting high-touch surfaces more often, not just the computers, but door handles, doors where people push, because you don't always grab the handle when you open a door and things like that. Proctors, we're also using Vayon classroom software to monitor the computers in the lab, and that's where we'll input passwords for the students as well, is that way. Really feel like that's just the best way to do it. Just then the proctor doesn't have to keep getting up and going in, or the proctor's not like right there above the student as they go to begin their exam. Maintain that 6 feet of distance pretty much at all times. So that's really good with that. And then I thought, let me check something really quick because I thought I had put it there. So, all right, sorry about that. So with RegisterBlast, this is, like I said, the online scheduling for students to be able to register for their exams. They can do that. registerblast.com/CEI/exam/list. It's quite a mouthful, obviously hard to remember. So easier ways to have them do it. CEI.edu/testing center is that center picture. It's got a big schedule and exam button right there. That button usually is best actually for students or for candidates that might not be in the community. So for instance, if we have somebody taking now IDOPL exams, they used to be IBOL exams, they're usually not one of our students. So for them, the best way to go through it is that way, because it's not tied to anything with that. Other ways that our students can do it are through Blackboard. There's a link in the dashboard on the left-hand side, and it'll say CEI Testing Center. On the right-hand side, the picture that I have, the image, as you see down near the bottom, it says that, but it's also not visible currently. Faculty have to remember that if they want that in their dashboard for the students to actually see, they have to make it visible. So that's one thing that is that way. Then there's also through the CEI apps page. This is obviously the faculty or staff apps page. So it's, I just pulled up my own here. Testing Center just has the normal blue box, like most of the other generic looking ones without the images that we have. But students would be able to log into their CEI apps. They could go through the current student page and then find their apps link and get in, and that would show for them as well. We highly encourage that way the best, because then faculty don't have to have the link turned on for their particular course. And then when they do that, though, it also connects through the integration, and they're automatically signed in. So then it automatically populate their information, such as their email address and their login. So all of that stuff that we will already have, and it'll be easier for us to monitor. So that's really the one that we try to encourage students to look for and do. And then it also makes it easier, because if you go in through the schedule and exam on the main testing center page, for those that might not be a student and things, each time that you do that, it essentially creates a new user. And so sometimes we'll go in and we'll find 20 John Does that are all the same person. They've just taken the test, taken a test 20 different times, and each time they've gone in that way. So we'll have to combine them. It's just a lot more on the back end for us, which isn't the end of the world, but it is something that we can do for sure. So that's the online scheduling side for the students, for them to be able to get into everything. So then obviously there's the faculty side and how they can access things as well. The link through Blackboard is there through your CEI apps page. And there's also the link for this one as well. That is the registerblast.com/CEI/professor. That one doesn't necessarily work as well as I would like it right now either. I think there's a couple of things that we still have to look at and see what's kind of going on. For what it calls submissions up here on that top picture, it's got submissions in the blue bar at the very top. That's basically your exam, or those are the exams as they come through. Just the information for those exams. Need to enter as much information as possible, include a hard copy of that exam if possible as an attachment, just so that way if something does happen, potentially we can print off a copy of it to give to the students that way. We have actually seen this where it's not necessarily an internet issue, because if the internet goes down, obviously we're not going to be able to get to it, but we've had circumstances where Blackboard has been down, but RegisterBlast is still working, so we can go in, print off a hard copy of that exam, give it to the students while Blackboard has been down. So that's one of those things for that. Only the proctors see this exam information, no students or any other staff. The faculty submissions are approved by myself or April Spalding, just to ensure that they're complete and accurate. And then you can take an exam that maybe you used last semester. So for instance, if you got a course that's pretty much the same, you can take those courses. Or if you're teaching English 101 both semesters and you want to use everything for the tests the same, you can just reuse those submissions that you already have and just update the things such as dates, password, etc., anything else that you might need. So those are some of the things that are there that we like. This just shows you exactly what we're looking for. When you put it in, you have to give it a name. Obviously, the number 2 shows the copy of the exam or any other special attachments. That might be if you have an exam that needs some kind of chart that goes with it to help the students out, or or anything that is for them to look at as they go through the exam. We can do that as well. And then it'll apply to the testing center group. So for instance, if you're teaching a course in ARN 100, you would click on that checkbox. Depending on which courses that you're actually a part of, we're not going to give you the whole list. This is actually the whole list because it was under my account. So it shows every course and number and everything that there is. But if you're a chemistry professor, your only group would be CEI exams, and then chemistry, and then if there is a Chem 100 or a 111 or anything like that, then maybe those as well, but it would only be based on chemistry. Or if you do teach 2 different subjects, maybe like chemistry and math, then we can change those as well. And then you give us a time where it's open date. Unfortunately, one of the things that we also found out is the way the system works in RegisterBlast, if you put an open date of, let's say, the time is, or the date would be Wednesday, and you want it to open at noon, and then close Saturday when we close at 3. If you put test open date, 1/6/2021, and then put 12 p.m., it will actually only open the test every single day at 12 p.m., unfortunately. And this is a RegisterBlast issue that I've brought to their attention, and they say that's how it's going to be, and I just wish they could fix that. But so if you don't necessarily care when they're going to take it, or if you want them to be able to take it all day, every day after the Wednesday, then just let us, then just put it in there as blank, or the 12 a.m. that'll give you the all day. But then it defaults to the parameters of the day. So like on a Saturday, it's not actually going to allow them to take it all day because we're not open all day, for instance. So allotted minutes for the exam. This one is really important, especially during our limited seating and everything in that, everything with that. Just because if you have an exam that is 60 minutes, but you put 120, that'll take up that seat for those full 2 hours until we check that person out. So even if somebody just registers for the exam early and it's taking up that extra time that might be able to be used. That's why we say that the best thing is right now is we're going to allow the same day appointments, can eliminate some of that time, but that's really a good thing. Then we require a preferred communication method. That's just how we would contact the faculty member if something were to go wrong. For instance, maybe password doesn't work, just anything of that nature, then we would contact you via the method that you indicate. Email, call, or text, and then you would include that there. Type of test, just online or paper-based, anything like that. And then we have please choose all that apply for this exam. So if you want to allow them to be able to use a note card that's 3 by 5, then you can do that, or a 1 page of notes, anything that way. And then in the additional instructions, some faculty will say the note card has to be handwritten. So then in the additional instructions, you just let us know handwritten notes only, or whatever the case might be. If it's open book, you might say the only book they can use is this particular textbook or this version or anything of that nature. So, so that's what we have with setting them up. Most of the faculty that we've worked with are getting a lot more familiar with this side of it. We're still trying to get familiar with it. So if there are any questions or anything like that, it's just best to give us a call, and then we will work through that. So the next thing is the Proctorio piece. Proctorio is the online test proctoring solution that we have decided to go with. Each student that uses Proctorio, they will receive one of the available licenses that we have. However, that one available license allows that student to take unlimited exams for a year, or it's really like an academic year period. So if somebody started this spring and they use the license now, they're really only going to be able to use it spring and summer. But if they start in the fall, they'll use it fall, spring, and summer. And that's really good because some classes might have 2 or 3 exams that they're taking, and some might have 15 that are all online through Proctorio. And so that's really good with that. We have purchased some with the COVID funds from last year and everything already. So right now, this go around, this instance, there's no cost to the students for the Proctorio versions at all. Some drawbacks to Proctorio is the exam has to be taken in Google Chrome. There's a Google Chrome extension that gets downloaded. I mean, I guess I say it's a negative, but most people I feel like use Google Chrome anyways, but there are those out there that aren't as familiar with it, don't like it, don't use it, anything like that, but you have to do these through Google Chrome. Also means they can't do it on a phone or a tablet. It has to be a computer. It can be a laptop or a desktop, that doesn't matter. Anything taken through Proctorio will be saved to the instructor's course in Blackboard, where the instructor can then review the recording of that student taking that test. And it will do a lot of those different things, or it'll tell you like a concern rate, things like that of, does this student look like they're cheating? And it'll give you those numbers. Yeah, so right now, most of our students that are in the nursing program, they have a license because they really, when we rolled this out really heavily with the licensing and things last fall and near the end of last fall, they were really the last ones that were on board with it. I would just say that if you are thinking about using this for your particular course and want to be able to use it, there might be some communication with me and then also like the dean and your chairperson for your department that we would have to talk to just to see what we can do, what solutions we have, and all of those things as well. We want you guys to be able to still have the proctoring and that security and knowing that the students aren't cheating and things like that. But we'll just have to work through and see what we can do for those. So And then for Blackboard, I included this piece in here as well, just because the faculty obviously have access to those videos, but they can also give access to myself as a TA in the course. I know Ryan Faulkner had to set me up as a TA in the courses last semester. I don't know if that's something he would have to do again if a faculty member wanted that. But then those videos, I usually go through and like to review the top 3 or 4 or 5 of each exam just to see kind of what's going on. I would also be able to review any that an instructor says, like, hey, little Sally here, I just feel like there was something off with this one because she's done really a lot better than normal. Can you review it just to see if anything's going on? And I would be more than happy to do so. Also within Blackboard, there is a way to set it up where you can have the exact same test be set up, and certain students can take it via Proctorio and certain students take it in person. There's just an override code that it will create. Then that code needs to come to us for those students that are going to take it in person instead of through Proctorio online. So, and then I created this as well. They're really small, so I think you guys are probably going to have a hard time seeing it now that I look at this, but try to make these a lot bigger. Really what it is, the picture on the left just shows the grade center in Blackboard. And this is where you have to go to be able to find out or to find the information. So under the grade center, where you see all the grades and the assignments and things that you've created, for the particular test that you would want, you would click on the little drop down next to it. Up in the top, it's in that black shaded piece that I put in, or in the middle of the page. And then you would go to View Proctorio Gradebook. Then that takes you to the page that's there on the right, and that's where those Proctorio exam results are. So as you see over on the right-hand side, or hopefully you can see, it's got a suspicion level, and then it shows the top 2 are at 100%. It's got red dots, and as you go down and it gets less suspicious, that red dot changes to yellow and green. It shows the picture, just that they went through the ID badge. It'll have the person's name, and it also has a picture or the picture that it captured as part of the check-in process. And then it tells you their attempt, the score they got on the test, how many abnormalities and things like that. If you click on the name, which I have hidden there, obviously, and if you click on those names, then that's where it takes you to the video to be able to watch that video. As you see on the left-hand side, it also has a little eyeball. If you've watched it, it's going to be a darker gray and not have a line through it. If you haven't, it'll be a lighter gray with a line through it. So that's really where those, where that comes through. So those top 4 I've watched, all 4 of those, even though the suspicion level was at 100%, I did not find any irregularities with those. A lot of the time what happens is Proctorio says, basically that you're not supposed to talk in a way, and somebody likes to read their questions out loud. So they're reading their questions out loud and going through, okay, so on question 42, this is the question, and then A says this and B, and so they're just kind of talking themselves through it, and it flags that. So that's where it's really nice that if you add me as the TA in the course, or a way that I can get in and see those exam results, I can really watch those and just say, you know what, John really likes to just talk to himself every exam, and so I don't think there's really anything there. Or, hey, this time there really was something that was of concern. This happened at about this point. I would try and talk to him or figure out what you wanted to do from there. And so then I would just kind of let the faculty member know from that point. So sometimes I also do review ones that are on the lower side, just to kind of see as, I guess, a quality assurance type check, if you will, just good way to do it. The suspicion level can also change. So depending on where you have your settings, and they're one of the tabs at the top up there, depending on where those settings are, the suspicion level can change for a person. So if you relax some things, maybe that top person then drops down to the middle of the pack. Or if you flip some settings a different way, maybe that person drops off and somebody else is at the top. And so that's just one thing to keep in mind too, is the suspicion level can really be set to how, I guess, harshly you would want to look at those videos. And so that's one thing to keep in mind as well, and to think about. So, all right. Also, another good thing that I like to look at, it's got a Proctorio map, which will actually show you where the IP address and everything of where that test was taken. So that actually came into play for us a little bit last semester when students had said they had to take it online and they couldn't do it in person because of something, but then, you know, they were actually not in the place where they said they were, you know, some of them, we had some people taking tests from Boise, some were down in Utah. It was just a really interesting thing. So that's also good to know. So if you're concerned about things like that, you can let us know, or we can also tell there's 4 or 5 of them that took it about pretty close to the same time, and they all popped up at the same IP address because maybe they logged in at Starbucks or something. So that's also something we can take a look at as well. So, so then I have this conclusion, but there's also some other things that I wanted to touch on as well as part of this. The first one, obviously, we are open and we are ready to work with faculty and students to really be able to help them out. And this semester, as you see on the next bullet point, it says, if your exam is proctored, you can give the students the options to either use the testing center or Proctorio if you are having those proctored exams. And we put that in there just because we're trying to be a lot more, I guess we could say, student-centered during this time. Obviously, a lot of the faculty in nursing, especially, they really want to be able to use us and they prefer us over the online solutions. And as part of that, though, some students might not feel comfortable with it just due to COVID, everything that way. I totally understand. Their faculty members understand. So we can give them the option to use the testing center or the Proctorio. My suggestion would just be maybe like to frame it in a way that's more, these exams for this course have to be proctored. You can use the testing center, or if you're not comfortable with that, you can use Proctorio, just let me know. And I would also say that we try to limit it for a student where they're not just changing back and forth. So it's not like this test, they want to do it in person, and the next test, they want to do it on Proctorio. And really the only time that might change is if somebody is in a protocol situation because they've taken a test and they're waiting for those things. We do have languaging on the RegisterBlast site and on our webpage that says if you're pending, even if you have a pending COVID test, to not come and take your test either. We feel like that was one of the problems that we had in the fall, was that students would have a pending test, still come, and then they would find out they were positive, and then they would tell us. So that is how that is. Also with this, follow the advice and direction from your dean or your department chair on how they want to handle proctored exams for the spring. I know some departments are doing things a little bit differently. I'm more than happy to, I guess, advocate for a program or a course or anything for anybody that wants to be able to do that. And so we can do that. And that's actually how this situation arose, is that I had been contacted by Jodine and some others in the nursing department, wanting to know what was going to happen, worked with Clint, Lori, Mike, went through everybody, and we got a lot of this taken care of. So also work with myself and your dean to get approval as needed. That just ensures that we're not going to have so many classes in there or so many people one week that maybe we're going to not be able to accommodate the 23 seats that we have, or students to fill those 23 seats will be too fully booked. Another thing to just keep in mind, if your course is fully online and you do want to do proctored exams, those all would be done through Proctorio. for those. Other situations that we've seen and that we're going to experience obviously as well. Anybody that has an ADA test or an accommodation, we will still take those in person if need be. So for instance, if you've got one person that's got an accommodation to be able to use the testing center, you can work with us to get that set up and have them come in and use the private room or just the testing center, whichever one is written into the language of the letter from the Disability Resource Center. Also, one of the things that I'm really working hard on and that we're really trying to get into the testing center are just a variety of different tests, of new tests, of different things that we can. So for instance, I've been working with the last couple of days, really working with them hard, but working with the Metro Institute. They're a testing agency based out of Phoenix, Arizona. They have partnered with the Idaho State Department of Agriculture to offer all the ISDA testing that they do online now instead of paper-based once a week at a certain time. So now those ISDA candidates will be able to go to one of the testing centers in the state, which we are now going to be one of those, and they'll be able to take those tests at any time that they want. I am working with, was contacted by, kind of in this weird roundabout way, Prometric for CNA exams. But I think when I held a meeting with them, they actually thought that we weren't already doing exams with them. So they were trying to just reach out to see if we could do our exams through them, our online exams. And so that turned in though to a discussion about actually meeting with Prometric Corporate to be able to discuss getting in other exams that would be things like pretty much any other exam that Prometric offered. So one of the big ones is the ASE, the Automotive Service Excellence exams that the students have to drive from here either to, I think, Pocatello or Rexburg to take those exams. And I just think that's a little bit too much to do. So I don't necessarily like those ideas. So that's what we're doing. Also program specific. So if you have, at the end of the year, you have a program exam for certification, we can work with you to get those set up as well. Currently, we do that with dental assisting, and we do it with the medical assisting. Both of those have different agencies that they go through for their certification exams, but we've got accounts and everything set up. We know when they're coming and we can do that. The legal program has added just a couple of those as well that they're doing. Energy Systems is starting now to be able to come in and do those as well. So we're really trying to just accommodate those in any way that we can. So that's really some of just the biggest changes that we have so far for this spring. I'd be more than happy to take any questions from anybody if there are any. And then, yeah, we'll just kind of go from there. So are there any questions? Just stop sharing my screen as well so I can go back and see if there's anything in the chat. All right. All right, so there's no questions. So if anybody can come up with any questions or has anything in the meantime, feel free to send me an email, larry.surtees@cei.edu. It's the best way to get a hold of me. Sometimes if you send them to the testing center, they will, the testing center email, they do forward those on to me as well. But send them directly to me. Always get everything taken care of for you, and we'll enjoy the rest of this week. Look forward to next week, and I enjoy working with all of you, and we'll see you all this semester. Thanks.